why are you even trying? They're never going to like us. They're never going to believe us. There's always something new. You're right. But if we just raise our hands and give up, we lost. They are never going to like us. I prefer to try and fight and communicate than just sit back and give up, because we have no other choice.
Let's maybe start off by, you can introduce yourself a little bit and where you come from and how you ended up where you are today.
Sure. My name is Jon Legarda. I was born in Spain. I grew up most of the time there, and then I came here to finish high school and since the army and everything, all the rest. I'm a video producer. I have my own business called Motion, and ever since the beginning of the war, I wasn't called to reserve, so I started looking for other things to help. And since the beginning, I knew there was going to be a whole other front that we have to fight in, which is communication, which is diplomacy, advocacy. Because as a Jew who lived outside of Israel, I know what it's like to be a Jew outside of Israel. I know what people outside of Israel think. I know what most non-Jews know about Israel. And I know that most Jews outside of Israel are going to start getting attacked physically, harassed. I have a lot of friends who say their coworkers, their friends are starting to complain and accuse them of things that have nothing to do with them. So since the beginning of October, I knew that there was going to be a whole new front. So I just started making videos. That's what I know what to do. That's my business. I'm not really used to being in front of the camera, but we had no other choice. So most of what I do is basically, first of all, trying to communicate our side. And second of all, trying to debunk a lot of lies that are being told about us. But I mean, the lies just pile up. The misinformation, the lies just pile up. And it feels like an endless battle. But on one hand, it's frustrating. A lot of my friends that also do advocacy and a lot of people who watch my videos are from Israel saying, why are you even trying? They're never going to like us. They're never going to believe us. There's always something new. You're right. But if we just raise our hands and give up, we lost. They are never going to like us. I prefer to try and fight and communicate than just sit back and give up, because we have no other choice. So that's basically what I've been doing ever since. I opened the Instagram. My first video just blew up. It got like 6 million views on Instagram, a few million views on Twitter. Elon Musk commented on it. That was amazing. And I understood that now I have this responsibility. I have all of these people that are now watching me. I went from like 400 followers to 10,000 in like 4 days. So, okay, now I have a lot of people watching me. I have a lot of responsibility, so I have to actually communicate what's going on. So I just kept on doing this.
So what was it about that video that you think got the attention?
I was one of the first people to make a video that's not angry at the pro-Palestinian side. The video's name was Dear Pro-Palestinians.
Okay.
I was basically telling them what the symbols and the chants that they are screaming in the rallies actually mean. Because I grew up with most of my friends in Spain were not Jewish. And I know what they see in the news. I know what they think about Jews. So I know that most of the people in the rallies, most of the people chanting from the root of the sea, their intentions are good. We get angry because we know what that means, but they don't. Most of the things that they see and they hear are poor Gazan children getting killed and Palestinians getting harassed. And that's all they see. They don't see the other side. They don't have the full picture. So if I grew up listening only to that side of the story, I would think the same. So I came from a perspective of, I know your intentions are good. I know you're trying to do something good for the world, but here's the other side you haven't been told. Here's more information that you might not know. If you're chanting this is what it means. When you're just ripping out posters of hostages, it doesn't really do anything. If you see Nazi symbols in your rallies, try to understand who you're rallying for. So that was basically the conversation I wanted to start. And a lot of Jews, a lot of Israelis saw that message and really agree with me. A lot of people who had no connection, a lot of Arabs and pro-Palestinians actually started following me and messaging me, "Hey, I had no idea." And started talking to me. Some were more angry, some were more understanding, but that was basically the message. And that's what I try to do in most of my videos. Sometimes I also lose it and get angry because it's frustrating. But most of the time, I just try to debunk so that people understand what they're saying and what they're standing behind.
So tell me a bit about your experience growing up in Spain and then moving to Israel and the difference,
Oh,
maybe similarity, any differences? Was it culture
yeah, yeah,
shock?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch. From my personal experience, I can say that in Spain, I had the problems that every kid and teenager had, but on top of that, I felt the anti-Semitism on me. I've been harassed. I've been beat up for being Jewish. The most uh, can I tell that? I'll tell this. So I used to be a swimmer for most of my life. And one time when I was about 11, 12, after training, we go to the changing room, and these kids that were older than me just came in and they just started being cocky and loud. And once they heard a little bit of my Hebrew accent, I kind of became their target, and they started asking me questions. And when they found out I was Jewish, basically they started pushing me around, harassing me, and a fight broke out. And the only reason I came out okay because another friend of mine was there to kind of help me. But yeah, it wasn't a very good experience being 11 and being beat up when you're half naked by a bunch of kids. And that wasn't the only time. There was a whole of examples. So being in Spain, you have the normal problems you have as a kid and as a teenager. And on top of that, you have the anti-Semitism problems. And moving to Israel, there was a lot of things that were new to me. First of all, people here accept you for whatever you are. I think a lot of people who make Aliyah are so surprised that Israelis are so easygoing. On one hand, they're very intense. They cut in lines, they scream, they honk. But on the other hand, you can walk around in socks, sandals, a tank top, and whatever you like, and nobody's going to say anything. Nobody's going to care. You can be whatever you like, and nobody's going to judge you for what you are. I mean, for the most part, there's always people, but for the most part, I mean, people coming from the United States, from Europe, from Australia, I heard that people are shocked always because of this. Anybody can be whatever they want. So you always are accepted, especially for being Jewish. So for me, that was a new experience. But there was also this thing that growing up in Spain, I kind of clinging to my Jewish identity because I was like, screw you guys, you're not going to harass me out of my identity. And then I was very proud of my Jewish identity. And then coming to Israel, I found out that Israelis are not that, their Jewish identity is not as strong as people who come from outside because everybody's Jewish. Everything is kosher. So being Jewish does not define you as an individual. So, do you know what the Maccabiah is? Like the Jewish Olympics in Israel? So for like European Jews, for South American Jews, one of the biggest events every 4 years.
Yeah.
Jews from all over the world come over. Israelis know about it, but they've never seen it. Israelis, after October 7th, were shocked about the anti-Semitism around the world. Like, oh my God, so many people hate us. Yeah, they don't know about it. A lot of Israelis after October 7th became more proud of their Jewish identity because they had no idea this is going on. So on one hand, you get very accepted. You can be free. On the other hand, Israelis don't understand how much Israel and the Jewish identity is important for us as Jews. So that was the main differences for me here.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think for the first time, at least the last two generations of Jews that have been born or grown up in Israel since 1948, it's like there's a group of Jews that don't understand or don't have the experience of being a minority, which is like the bulk of Jewish history. So us in the diaspora, do you think that creates some sort of divide between Israelis and diaspora Jews? Like maybe they don't understand each other
I don't
because
think
of
it's the divide. It's
experience?
more that they don't understand. One of the main questions that Israelis ask me when I tell them that I came from Spain is, why the hell did you do that? Always. They never miss. Because they don't understand. You lived in Spain, live in Europe. Why the hell would you come to this hellhole?
Why
So
did
it's not
you?
a
Why
divide.
did you move? It's a good question.
First of all, I mean, I didn't move alone. It's my
Yeah,
whole family. We
your
did
family.
together.
Why?
There was a whole thing that my mother is Jewish, my father isn't. He grew up a Catholic.
Me
But
too.
all of us, we all love. Oh, you did?
Yeah, my dad converted. Yeah,
Oh,
but he comes from Italian
well, yeah,
Catholic
converted.
background. Yeah.
Oh, but you were born Catholic or you were born
No,
Jewish?
no. So my mom is Jewish, but my
Hmm.
dad was born like Catholic from Italian Catholic
Hmm.
parents, but he converted before my parents got married. So both my
Oh,
parents are
okay,
now
got it.
Jewish. Yeah, but yeah.
Ah, nice. No, my father never converted. He's
Yeah.
just an atheist now.
Okay.
He left the Catholic Church. He met my mom, and I mean, we all loved Israel. And on top of that, with the reality in Spain of the anti-Semitism, we said, no, it's screwed. Let's just move to Israel. My parents all also really, really believed that the education and lifestyle in Israel would be much better for us. Going through high school and the army, experiences that you can't really have anywhere else in the world. So they really, really thought Israel would do better for us than living in Spain. And I think they were right. So yeah, that was the reason we moved.
And the rest of your family are they still in Spain? Like your
I have a lot of family
extended
from
family?
my father's side. They're all Catholic, so they're still in Spain. They don't mind staying there. My mom's side is Jewish. She was born in Brazil. A lot of them live now in Israel, but I mean, it's a Jewish family. We're a big family. There's people in China, England, United States, Brazil. It's all over. But most of them made Aliyah. Yeah, which is very nice. I highly recommend it, especially now. We need all Jews back home.
I feel like we need some Jews out here as well, though.
But yeah, yeah, we
You
need
know.
people to represent.
Um,
Yeah,
so when you moved to Israel, did your dad have any experiences being not Jewish, Catholic in Israel, or was it like roses and
no,
happy?
I I mean, no. From what I know, he never had any complaints being not Jewish or Catholic. I mean, he doesn't even speak Hebrew. We've been here for what, since 2006, 18 years. He barely speaks any Hebrew. He mainly speaks English with everybody, and he hasn't had any problem of harassment or I know from people who move to Israel who aren't Jewish, the main problem is when I want to get married. I know that Catholic women, Christian women, they come from Russia or the States, they want to marry a Jewish man. Normally, that's the main problem. But um, I mean, we right now 5 minutes from my house in Yafo, there's a huge Christmas tree. There's a few other
Yeah.
Christmas trees in Tel Aviv. There's in many different in Nazareth, in Jerusalem, and I mean, it's all over. So being from other religion is not really a problem. We have Druze, Muslims, Christians, I mean, a whole array of people. So I think we have the normal amount of racism a multicultural country has. From
Yeah.
if it's government wise, if it's socially wise, of course, racism exists.
Oh
That's
yeah.
human nature. You're not going to do
Come to
anything about it.
Australia.
Exactly.
Just come to Australia.
Exactly.
You'll see it. Yeah.
But I also lived a year and a half in the States, in LA, which is a huge boiling point. And I experienced a fair amount of anti Semitism in LA. So compared to those places, being not Jewish in Israel, I think, is much safer than being Jewish in the places that I've lived. So,
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, he's been all right.
Well, that's good. I'm
Yeah.
glad that I already know this, but for people listening, Israel is one of the most diverse places on the planet, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So
It is. If
really.
it's ethnicities, if it's religions, it's a whole thing. If it's ideologies, the whole thing.
So then, would you say your whole family then is Sephardi?
Um, Okay, so yeah, so my mom is a Jewish one, and
Yeah,
her mother is Moroccan. Her dad is Russian, so I'm half and half.
interesting.
So I can make jokes about anybody, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, if, because usually Sephardi Ashkenazi comes from the father, you inherit it from your father, but if your father's not Jewish,
Yeah.
does it come from the mother then? Do you refer to
Well,
your mother's family? Do you know? I don't know.
I don't really know the rules. I know that in my house we have Ashkenazi and Sephardic food. I
Mm-hmm.
know that in Yom Kippur we like to go to the Ashkenazi one for the opener, for the Sephardi one for the closer because it's the shortest one.
Okay.
Um,
Smart.
and they eat faster. The
Mm-hmm.
Ashkenazis like to talk too much and we're hungry.
Yeah.
So it's always like kind of a mix. So I wouldn't say I'm Sephardi or Ashkenazi because also, to be honest, I that's my personal opinion, but I think that just creates more divide when you stay Ashkenazi, Sephardi, Mizrahi, whatever. First of all, it creates more divide. Second of all, it gives wrong. I learned these past year and a half that it creates the wrong impression to non-Jews, like saying, yeah, there are Jews from Europe, there are Jews from no,
Mm.
Jews are from Judea. We
Yeah.
might have lived in exile in different places, but it's the same ethnicity, it's the same religion, it's the same prayers. We might sing the prayer a little differently, but I mean, it's the same thing. So I never introduce myself as Ashkenazi or Mizrahi. I mean, if we take the most horrible example, like the Holocaust or persecutions that happen in Northern Africa, in the end, I think keeping your traditions and history is important. But we should keep in mind those traditions came from exile. You're not from North Africa. You're not from Europe. You were exiled to those places. So in the end, of course, you should keep your traditions that you picked up wherever you left, wherever you lived, your family came through, to remember what your family had to go through in exile. But
Yeah.
we should always keep this in mind. Because also, the Mizrahi Sephardi Ashkenazi thing creates, when you have like an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood or just a Jewish neighborhood, I don't know, outside of Israel, but in Israel, religious places, it tends to be like another source of like bullying for kids. If there's a whole Sephardi, Mizrahi classroom and one Ashkenazi, normally it's like, that's a reason to make fun of them.
Mm.
Kids will always make fun of something, but I mean, you should find something that's not your Jewish identity. That's my opinion. We
Yeah.
shouldn't be divided as Jews for our Jewish identity.
Yeah.
Should be divided for how you look or whatever. No, but yeah, kids will always find a reason to bully, but I don't think that should be one of the reasons.
Yeah. I just think part of that is that attitude where you're so insular that you don't even socialize with other Jews from a different
Mm-hmm.
cultural background. I just think maybe it's a result of trauma and persecution, although it's not the Jewish groups that were persecuting you, but
Yeah.
maybe from those countries that you were once in those countries and they're from, I don't know. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's just like a
Do you?
fear of difference. I
Yeah.
don't
Do
know.
you know the movie, the documentary? I think it's called Three Identical Twins. Three Identical. It's about these three boys, men that they're triplets, but they were separated at birth. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to say the whole thing, the whole story. It's one of my favorite documentaries, and I mean, they kind of find out about it in college. One guy goes to college and he gets mistaken for somebody else, and he finds out he has a twin. And then there's another guy from another place. And in the end, when they find each other, they hug and they embrace each other. It's like, oh my God, my lost brother I never knew I had. I think Jews from Mizrahi, Ashkenazi, and Sephardis, we should behave in a certain, in a similar way. In that movie, they still live in their adoptive parents' house, and they still have their adoptive families. They never let them go. They know where they grew up. They know who I mean the environment they had to live in. But they also recognize that they're all brothers. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's the same thing. We should recognize that we're all the same people. We're all the same ethnicity. We came from the same place. we should recognize the places that we lived in and the differences we have in education, traditions. Fine, that's really important, but still recognize that we are the same people, and we get divided between ourselves. It just gives more fuel to people who try to divide us to divide us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another show that was playing earlier that I was listening to, an interview with an Israeli woman asking about her perspective about if people in Israel are actually united at the moment or if it's just an illusion. What is your impression of the current state where you live and
Looking,
then maybe between different cities if it differs?
yeah. I can tackle this question in many different ways. I'll try my best. When you listen to the news, even here in Israel, maybe also outside of Israel, it sounds like Israel has never been more divided. That couldn't be further from the truth. There are some divisions when we talk about the hostages, how to deal with the ceasefire deals, with a whole bunch of things. You see the rallies in Tel Aviv, the rallies in Jerusalem, but we are still very united, especially when I compare to my life outside of Israel, when I see Spanish people, Americans, how they are so divided when they are not under so much pressure or they're not in war. Israelis are very, very, very united, even more than they think. Because in the end, when you walk around the street, when you need help, you'll get the help you need. When something happens to people in the north, they can come to the center and sleep in other families' homes. They will open the doors and let you come in. When people from the south, from around Gaza, needed a place to stay, people from all over Israel came up and helped. And even right now, when we have a lot of division politically, socially, Israel is still very much united with the amount of pressure that we're having internally and externally. Again, you will always have political discussions, but in a personal level, in a social level, we are very much united despite the amount of pressure that we have militarily, governmentally, and all the rest. So overall, as much as it sounds worse in the news, we are very united.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have some family and friends that have been living in Israel and family that's just coming back now, and he's been there this past year. And his impression of politically the division amongst Israelis is that you've kind of got two camps of thought. You got those that are more focused on the hostages and who are very anti-Netanyahu, and then those that are more looking at the big picture and the war and the nuance within it. Where do you
Mhm.
stand in that? First of all, do you agree that there's that division you're
Yeah,
in the country?
there is a division. Even between the families of the hostages, that division exists. There's the camp of let's have a ceasefire deal now, whatever the price, and the other one saying, wait, let me say it differently. There are two main objectives to the war: bringing back the hostages and bringing down Hamas. There is the camp. We could say the left, the families of the hostages that want to have a ceasefire deal for the hostages now, whatever the price. But there are people who are saying no, the security of Israel is more important, whatever the price. That's the two main. You can say left and right. You can say Bibi not Bibi, but that's the main divide. My opinion, first of all, is like you can't judge the families of the hostages. You can judge maybe the people who rally with them and stuff, but the families you can't judge. If that was my family, I would go out and burn the world.
Yeah.
I would jump the fence and go look for my brother. I think you can perfectly well judge the people who go to the rallies and make it very political, but you cannot judge the families.
No.
I personally think that the objective of getting a secure country is the main objective that we need, because when you you can't really compare the importance of lives of a hostage to a soldier to somebody who lives next to the borders in the north or next to Gaza. I mean, how can you say that his life is more important than his or more important than his? It's a conversation that's impossible. So when I look at, again, like you said, the big picture, making sure Israel is safe and an October 7th cannot happen, not just in the next year or two, in the next 2 decades, is the most important objective.
Okay.
If we can get the most hostages we can as a result, that would be the best thing. I wish we can get all of them, but we are 15 months into the war, and Hamas is still not giving us a list. Not a month after the war, not 6 months after the war, and not now. I mean, right today, they just delayed slash canceled the current ceasefire deal, the hostage deal, because they say that they cannot find all the hostages, so they cannot give us a list.
Yeah,
And
right.
they say that they can because of the situation, because of the destruction and the war. But when the situation wasn't as destructive, they didn't give us a list either. They don't have any intention of giving us all the hostages. We should strive to getting the most hostages we can. But the people who say hostage deal now don't know what the deal is, don't know what Hamas is offering, they don't know what Hamas can offer. And they come from an emotional place, which is 100% understandable. I mean, everything here is emotional. You're seeing people who you know and love being held hostage by a terrorist organization for 15 months. That's insane. But if we're talking about actual solutions and objectives, I think you cannot think emotionally. You have to think objectively. You have to look at the whole picture.
So do you think that the way that Israel is going about everything is the best approach?
No, horrendous. I think the government is doing a horrible job managing this war. Horrible job. We can. I'll start by saying that I think people are giving Bibi Netanyahu too much credit because of Bibi. We don't have this. We don't because of it. There's so many players in the government. If it's the opposition, if there's a coalition. If it's the judges, if it's the army, if it's there's so many players around it. Just putting all the blame on one person is basically putting more kindle on the fire, just making more divide. I think as a whole, if you look at the higher officials in the army, the government, the left, right, everybody, the war is being managed horribly.
In
I
what
think it's
sense?
better. In
In
what
what
sense?
sense?
That if we're talking economy wise, the money is being distributed in a very poorly way. They're doing more politics than caring about their reality on the ground. They care more about their seats and their own personal safety than the safety of the rest of the people. There's a whole bunch of problems. I know that a lot of high officials in the army still have a misconception about the realities on the ground. And I'm telling you this from talking to high officials and talking to people under those high officials, talking to people in the Shin Bet, talking to people in the Shmone Matayim, it's unit in the intelligence. There's a very big misconception of people who led to what happened on October 7th. They are still in the army and don't want to change their ways. So militarily, there's a big problem. Governmentally, there's a big problem. But I think it's best that we continue in a slow and bad way than the other solution that would be to stop and maybe start over another time. We don't have another time. We have to continue now, even if it's in a bad way. But we have to achieve the goal of fighting the people who want to annihilate us and bring some kind of security to Israel.
Okay, so let's maybe turn away from the first war, which is the war on the ground, to
Hmm.
the second war that we're fighting, which is the online war.
Hmm.
Why did you decide to join the online battle?
I think, like I said in the beginning of our conversation, I just knew that this front is going to be very important. I knew it because I experienced it and I saw it live. I think there are a lot of people who don't like us, who hate us, but Israel has never really put any effort to communicating our side of the story. I don't like the word narrative, but I don't have right now a better translation in my head. Um, I think what we saw in October of 2023 was the best example to why we should tell our side of the story, because I think it was on October 9th or 11th, we saw a rally in Columbia University, a pro-Palestinian rally. Is the word rally the right word? I keep saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A pro-Palestinian rally, anti-Israel rally on October 9th or 11th, before Israel had any boots on the ground in Gaza, right after the massacre. How do you get so many people to rally for the people who just massacred before Israel had a response? Because we can say Qatar, Iran, whatever heads for the past, at least we know, 2 decades, have been putting so much effort and funding into education, into higher education, into manipulation to people around the world. Well, we just sat back and said, I mean, it's obvious that we're on the right. We don't have to put any effort towards it. And now we're seeing the result of just putting that aside. We see that the black community in the United States is pro-Palestinian, which is just insane. That is the biggest thing. We have queers for Palestine. I mean, do you understand how, and none of these, if you know the basics of what's going on, none of these can actually happen. Queers for Palestine, I think, is the biggest proof of just
Ignorance.
Brainwashing. Yeah. Ignorance, brainwashing, whatever. The black community being pro-Palestinian when Martin Luther King was a Zionist, when the Jews helped Martin Luther King, the rabbis, we have pictures with him, when you still had slave quarters in Gaza until not long. I mean, they still have the name Abed, but I mean, it's just insane. So, of course, we should tell our side. It's not going to be from today to tomorrow. It's going to be a long effort. It's not going to be the next year, the next two. But if we keep on being proud of our identity, if we keep on telling our side of the story, you are going to get more people. I mean, people like me who never thought about doing advocacy, I'm doing advocacy. And I have a lot of friends who do the same. A lot of people I met through Instagram, through TikTok, who started doing advocacy after October 7th. We all have the same experiences of people saying, look, I never knew this, I never saw this. Oh my God, please tell me more. People from outside of Israel that only heard one side of the narrative. So I think it's a very important front that we Jews and Israelis have to put some effort into.
Do you think Israel has approached that war in a good way since
Horribly.
So what do you think they should be doing better?
Israel had a department of Hasbara, a department of advocacy, which I think closed after a month into the war. Which just shows you how uninvested and unsmart the current leadership is. They just put aside a whole important front. And right now we have to deal with the ICC, with the ICJ, with the UN, and we have Queers for Palestine because Israel as a country is not putting any effort into explaining or advocating or what's going on. So as a country, horrible job. That's why people like me still have, for a whole year, had to do this for free. I mean, I just opened a Patreon and a Buy Me a Coffee a month ago. I've been doing this for 14 months for free out of my own personal time because I think this is important. So there's been a lot of efforts from people like Noat Ishbin, Levi, Yosef Haddad, to make these communities or these organizations to make this bigger. There's a lot of people outside of Israel who have been opening communities and trying to make talks and workshops to help this effort. But Israel as a country, the country of the Jewish people, should be putting more effort into this because they have no, I mean, even if they don't want to take this on themselves, help me, give me A person who's putting all of this time for free help me just, I don't know, pay my rent. Not even make money, just pay my rent so I can keep doing this for
Right.
free. I don't know. Me and a lot of creators are complaining about the same thing. There's no effort or
Incentive.
help from incentive from Israel, from like the
The
government.
government.
So it's
Yeah.
really frustrating.
Why do you think the government doesn't focus or prioritize that side of things?
They don't see the importance. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that
Still, they
were
still can't see
that,
the importance with everything happening to Jews around the rest of the world? Or
they
are
can
they,
they can see it, but they don't. There's a lot of for example, there's this amazing. I don't even know how to say his title: creator, producer, advocate. Chen Mazig.
oh yeah,
I think he, at some point, maybe I don't know if he worked with the government, but he tried through a lot of his projects to help out the Israeli advocacy, and just nothing gets through. Just like militarily wise, there's still a lot of people who don't understand that Gaza, as again as a state, as a country, whatever you want to call it, wants to annihilate Israel. There's a lot of people who in the government who still understand that advocacy, Israeli advocacy, is extremely important, and they are more focused on other problems, social problems, economic problems, inner political problems, and they're like, yeah, we'll deal with this sometime. No, you had to deal with this 15 months ago. You're putting this aside, but we are seeing the consequences now. They're just not dealing with it. I've talked to people in government, and they're all frustrated. Like they're not listening to us. They don't put any efforts. They don't want to listen to any solutions. It's just not getting through to them. To the current government, I know there's a lot of people who want to be in politics, who want to contribute to the effort, that know the importance, but the current people right now in 2024, almost 2025, in the Israeli government have don't understand the importance of Israeli advocacy to the current military, social, and economical problems in Israel, and it's really frustrating. When I said the government is just not doing anything, this is one of them. This is a big one. It's really frustrating.
so if you take the government out of it and you don't expect anything from them, do you think that the future of rests on, our shoulders, like the next generation from a grassroots perspective, doing things like what you do?
Oh, I think I'm going to take your question and just expand it a bit more to the
Sure.
future of Israelis and Jews. I think the golden age of Israel is coming. The golden age of Israel is coming. I think we just went through some economic hardship, social hardship. I mean, until October 6th, we had a very big divide socially here in Israel. Jews around the world didn't really see the importance of Israel, and right now, the golden age is coming because on October 8th, I saw the Israeli people from all over just come together. Um, Famous people, poor people, people who have nothing to do, just get on their cars to go and donate money, blood, food, military equipment, go drive around people. I was in my car for 2 weeks because I used to drive around soldiers, military equipment, food, utilities, everything to anyone, people who went outside of the kibbutzim next to Gaza. So everything. I saw so many people open their eyes and see the reality on the ground. Um, and I think when these people, us, people a bit older than me, a bit younger than me, when we arrive to places of leadership in Israel and outside of Israel, that's when the golden age of Israel will arrive. I think right now we still have some rotten apples in government, in leadership, in the army, whatever. Once it might not be in the next election, but maybe the one after that, we're going to see a much better future in Israel for Jews in Israel, for Jews outside of Israel, because the people who actually got out of their seats to do things, people, for example, like I said, I never thought I would do advocacy. I never thought I would fight for Israel in this front as hard as I am. And I am. And people like me are all over the place in Israel. So once we get to places of leadership, this country is going to be in the best place it's ever been.
Well, I hope you're right, and maybe we'll be seeing you in the mainstream news soon.
Hopefully. Thank
Thank you for
you
doing
so
this.
much. I hope things get better in Australia for you guys.
Yeah, me too. And
Yeah.
I hope the war ends soon, as we all do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Dalia, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.